Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Just trying to see if my volume is right there. Okay, cool, man. So, yeah, let's get to the cricket. England beat Pakistan. I know you had, called it, but I feel for Shine Afridi, it would have been so much more interesting had these 2 overs been done. But anyway, as I famously say, S what happens. So, yeah, man, your thoughts?
Yeah, interesting game, eh? Interesting game. A low scoring, I'd say a low scoring kind of thriller in a way. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right there. Shaheen obviously was a big call there. But I think this game was lost in the batting for Pakistan. They just didn't have enough runs on the board, you know. They just didn't have enough runs on the board. I think they were 20 runs short. So, I mean, currently England, they bowled fantastically on that wicket in Melbourne. And you know, it's amazing that we got a full game because looking at the weather report, it was looking highly doubtful that we were going to get any game at all. But we managed to get a good game. But, you know, I think in the end, you know, England held their nerve. And I think it was a comfortable win in the end. I know people were saying, you know, it got a bit edgy in the end. But I think England probably had this chase under control as long as Ben Stokes was there. I mean, what a player. I mean, he's a fantastic player, especially under pressure. I mean, he can get a team all, man. As long as Ben Stokes was at the wicket, you almost got to feel England were going to get this done. I think deservedly in the end. And to be fair, I think deserved winners in the end. The cricket they played this World Cup, they played the better cricket. To be fair, Pakistan, obviously, you know, they were quite lucky to get out of the group. I mean, we all know what happened in Group B. It was a meltdown by the Proteas that got them in. And, you know, they played very well in the semi-final against New Zealand. But I think overall, if you look at an overall team performance, and I know I called it previously, you know, on the show that, you know, if you look at this England side, well-balanced side, I mean, they got batting right down and they got the bowling options too. And, you know, to hit the brakes there. And, you know, fantastic performance from Curran. I think Curran, man of the tournament, deservedly so. I think he bowled with so much intelligence in this tournament, and that's what struck me more. Very, very improved bowler. Then Rashid. I mean, what can I say? I mean, he's a game changer. He's a match winner. He did it in the semi-final against India, and he did it again in the final. He was fantastic with the ball. So I think, you know, England as a whole, deserving winners in the end. And you know, this red ball. You know, renaissance is taking place with this England side. I mean, from 2015, they've done so many things right. And, you know, sorry, white ball renaissance. They've done so many things right since 2015. Changed the structures, and I mean the way they approach a white ball cricket is absolutely amazing. I mean, their approach is amazing, and deservedly winners in the end for me.
Okay. So now let's go into the other world of cricket. It was actually, let's go to England and Australia quickly. I didn't expect such a one-sided one-day series, man. First ODI, Australia won by 6 wickets, and the second one they won by 72 runs, man. What are your thoughts, man?
I'm not surprised by this. I'm really not surprised by this result. I think it's pretty expected. I mean, England were giving some of their big hitters a break. I mean, this result doesn't surprise me at all. Australia being 2-0 up. I'm a little bit surprised by what you're saying, but this result doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, England obviously going through a hangover from the World Cup final, deservedly so. I mean, I don't think they really played to their potential in the series. They were giving a lot of guys that are on the fringes, you know, opportunities, and I think some of them actually, you know, stood up and, you know, were counted. The likes of, I mean, Milan was sensational in the first game. And then a guy like Billings and Vince, I thought they had some good performances. So I'm not really I'm not really surprised by Australia being 2-0 up. I think, you know, England obviously they wanted some guys to have a rest, and you know, Australia had something to prove after the World Cup. So Yeah,
Hmm.
I disagree. I saw this result coming a long time ago, so I'm not
Okay.
very surprised by this result. England looked a bit flat in that first game. Second
Hmm.
game they were in it until that snap. So yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned if I were England. Hey, so and I'm
No,
not
but what's
really one
concerning?
for.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not really
yeah,
one
yeah.
for these series bilaterals after a tournament. I think it's sort of kind of a bridge too far. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not really surprised by this result so far.
Yeah, but this is England's third one-day series loss on a row. I think one was against India, one was against South Africa, and now one was now against Australia. So it is a little bit concerning, but I'm sure, as you said, this is probably hangover. So as long as they don't lose another one, that too after a while, it should be okay, I guess.
You know what amazes me about this England side, this white ball team? They seem to be a tournament team. They really seem to come up. They bring the goods when it comes to tournaments. So ever since 2015, what happened to them in that World Cup? That early exit. They really changed their cricket around, especially their white ball. They started taking
Hmm.
white ball cricket really, really seriously, and you've seen it with the
Yeah.
results. They made the knockouts of every single white ball tournament thereafter. It just goes to show how much of how much of effort they put into their white ball game. Their structures, they've changed a lot. They managed to get
Hmm.
specialists for each format. The
Hmm.
ODI's, the test, the T20s. They managed to get specialists. I think before that they were playing a lot of test players
Hmm.
in the team. They went away with it. They went away with it because they looked at
Yeah.
their pool and they saw that they are
Hmm.
players that are specialists in this sort of format. Let's give them an opportunity, and that is how they make a living at the end of the day. And you've got to give people opportunities. That's what England have done, and they've
Hmm.
reaped the rewards for it. So I wouldn't be too concerned about this at all. I think when it comes to the tournament, when it comes to the World Cup, I think they'll be in pretty good shape.
Okay, let's get to the next one. India and New Zealand. I've got a new name for India, Bilateral Kings. There was a trophy for team winning series, and India would get the trophy for that. They won the second match against New Zealand. The first one was actually wiped off, washed out. The second one they won by 65 runs. So Suryakumar Yadav made a scintillating 100. I didn't watch it, but I think I must catch it up and catch up. What were your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I saw a bit of that first innings. I didn't manage to see a lot of that second inning, but wow. I'm lost for words to describe this man. I think if ever there was a modern day genius, I think you got to give it to Surya. Unbelievable. This guy is on top of the world at the moment, and I always like to compare him to Mike Hussey because this guy took so long. It took such a long time for him to get his spot in this Indian side, but once he got it, he grabbed it with both hands. An absolute master of his craft. I think he understands his game inside out, and I
Hmm.
think he's probably the one player in the world. If you talk about a 360 player, the last player we saw of this caliber was AB. And AB is no more. And
Hmm.
here we have a 360 player that can play all around the wicket. An absolute nightmare for opposition sides. Setting a field and bowling to him. I think a lot of times he gets himself out. And if you look at Perth as well in the World Cup, yeah, on that difficult wicket, with that pace and bounce where every other Indian batter failed, and he was the one guy that stood up and took the innings deep and made a 60 odd. So that's a sign of a great player, a player that
Hmm.
can play on all sort of surfaces and the difficult surfaces. A player that can eke out runs in difficult surfaces. Like the one at Perth which was really difficult. And
Hmm.
he's head and shoulders above the rest in terms of batting at the moment. In T20
Yeah.
at least. He's head and shoulders above any other batter in the world at the moment.
Hmm. I'd love to see him bat in 50 overs. I don't think he'll make the test squad because his game may not be the best for that. But I think I'd love to see him in 50 overs. I've never seen him bat in 50 overs though. That'd be fun though.
It's interesting you say that because what happened with the Indian selectors panel? The entire panel got fired because, I mean, they didn't really pick players that were actually, merited a position in the side. Some of those players, were not there by merit as such. So, it'll be interesting to see him in test matches, eh? I'd like to see him in test matches and ODIs because I think if you see him in all those formats and yeah, I mean, if you see him all those formats, I mean, you'll think to yourself, you know what, this is a player, one of the best of this generation, no doubt about it. So, I'm sure he wants to play Test cricket. I'm pretty sure he wants to play Test cricket. I mean, Test cricket is the pinnacle for any player. I mean, he doesn't want to play Test cricket for their country.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I do hope he gets his opportunity. I do hope so because I think it's not such a big gamble to put him in the Test side at the moment. If there's others that are performing.
He's like 30. Yeah. Okay. I just want to get your quick thoughts here now. If you look at the upcoming series that will happen now, I think the West Indies will tour Australia. That's coming on the 30th of November, right? I think let's just put it out there. Australia to win this Test series 3-0. Actually, sorry, my bad.
It's actually a two-test series. Is it not a two-test series?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Two-test series. Yeah, 2-0.
Yeah, well, provided the weather stays away, I can't see Australia not winning this 2-0. But I think the only thing that can save the West Indies is a bit of weather. I mean, where are they playing? Which venues are they playing in?
Oh, one is in Perth and the other one is in Adelaide, day-nighter.
Yeah, I mean, Perth's really going to be difficult. I think the likes of Hazelwood and Stark, they're going to love it and playing on that Perth strip. So yeah, I mean, the Windies, this is a massive test for them, especially a team that's really starting from the bottom again in terms of their cricket. It hasn't been a good year for them. So, yeah, I mean, I really can't see any surprises there, at all. Looking at those venues as well, they probably maybe should play a little bit better in Adelaide because Adelaide is put on the slow side, so they probably should play a bit better there. But I think Australia are overwhelming favourites to win the series, 2-0.
Okay, well, it's nice to see the Afghanistan actually going to Sri Lanka, man. It's good for the development. I think they're playing just ODIs from what I can see, 3 ODIs. So, it's ODI. I think Sri Lanka are the favourites, 50 overs. But I'd love to see Afghanistan win that series.
Yeah, I think if you look at both sides, probably evenly matched in the sense that they both players have match winners, and Sri Lanka obviously a lot of turning tracks there. So I mean, who's to say that Afghanistan can't win a game or two there? I mean, they do have the spinners to trouble any batting lineup on their day. So you know what? If they actually lose the series 2-1. I see that as a lot of progress for Afghanistan. Even if they lose the series 2-1, I think that's I think that's a massive growth for them. So Sri Lanka would be favourites with their whole position, and given that it's Afghanistan, so look, I think they can win a game or two. I think they can win a game on that tour. So. Yeah, that would be a real development for them, no doubt about it, going forward. And I think it's important that they do get many more of the series to come. It's going to help their cricket big time.
Okay, before we wrapped off, I just want to get your quick thoughts here. I know Michael Vaughan had written something in the Telegraph. He said, India are the most underperforming team in white ball history. Failure to win is most staggering. What were they thinking against England? Yeah, I can't read all of this because I have to be a subscriber, but what were your thoughts on his title there? I think he does have a point, man.
Look, I think there have been quite a few sides that have fallen short. So I don't think it's just India. I think losing one knockout game doesn't make you a bad team. India's still a quality side. So uh, I don't think losing one semi-final makes you a bad side. So I can't understand that narrative from one.
If you look at all the other tournaments India's played, they've never really won any ICC events since 2011, I think, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, they won quite a few tournaments before that. So, as I'm saying, I mean, I don't understand what he's saying by, the least underperforming. So I think there's a lot of sides that have fallen short during that time. There's a lot of sides that haven't won or haven't gone far in tournaments. I mean, the Proteas are one of them. I mean, you got Sri Lanka that have been on rebuilding phase for God knows how long. So I mean, New Zealand as well. I mean, how unlucky a side is New Zealand in tournaments? Always so consistent.
But if you look at New Zealand, they don't have the talent though as India though, and South Africa, I think. So you could always pardon New Zealand, but India the one is a bit more difficult to pardon with all the talent they got. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about talent, but I think the one thing with New Zealand, you got to give them credit about that. They've got consistency in selection. And I think consistency in selection is more important, is very, very important. You've got a consistent side there. I think they're a well-drilled side. They have a lot of, they do the basics right. They do the basics right. So, I mean, a team that does the basics right are always going to, perform well. So, I mean, on a talent-wise, I mean, you can talk about India. But I just want to say something. When it comes to tournaments, form goes out of the window. And I've said that plenty of times. Form goes out of the window. It's all about how you play on that given day. So at the end of the day, it doesn't make you a bad team necessarily to lose a game in a World Cup or lose a knockout game. But it's how you perform under pressure on that given day. That's what separates, the good from the great. And the Australian teams of the past, I think what really set them apart from other teams at that point in time was their ruthlessness. I think they were really ruthless, especially in World Cups. So I think Varney is a bit, he's probably getting carried away a bit. I think India is still a really good side, eh? I think they got a few things wrong in the World Cup, and we could always that's a conversation for another day. That's a deep conversation. There's a few players that I thought that could have helped them in that team that were in the squad but actually didn't get a chance to play. So I mean, I can discuss that, but Rishabh Pant being one of them. Rishabh Pant expected player, and I think he should have played as in some of those games, and they probably should have dropped Dinesh Karthik. But that's a conversation for another day. It doesn't make them a bad side. I think Vaughan is just getting carried away a bit, and I think a lot of times he gets his predictions wrong. So I wouldn't be too much into it.
Yeah. Okay, finally, before we wrap off, Mitchell Stark had mentioned, I don't think playing three formats is something I can do for a long time. I know he's for Test cricket, so that's quite pleasing. So I think he might drop the 50 overs, in my opinion. He might do that and maybe play T20 the Test cricket like Ben Stokes. So that's just my assumption, because he is planning to drop one of the formats, but I don't know which one, but I'm assuming it'll be 50 overs.
You assume it'll be 50 overs. I was probably thinking along the lines of T20, because I think Mitchell Stark, he's a rhythm bowler, and I think the longer the longer the format, I think the more he gets into his rhythm and stuff. So I mean, he's a real match winner. So it's a tough one, eh? I think this Australian T20 side. He's a bit of in a rebuilding phase. I'm not sure if he's, part of the plans going forward. I think they'll probably look to build with youth, and I think that's a good thing in a way. So there's a few players that are probably going to drop off on that side. But the modern day player at the moment, I don't think there's many players going around that can play all kind of formats. It's just too demanding at the moment. So, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think as time goes on, you'll see a lot of players, drop off a format and continue with certain other formats where they do find it. But yeah, probably. It's a funny thing about Mitchell Starc. They claim he seems to be one of the best bowlers in the world, but he never really gets picked in IPL at all. So it's kind of surprising for me that a player of his caliber doesn't get picked
No, it's not
in
that. I
IPL.
think he chooses not to partake in the IPL because he wants to rest his body. He wants to focus on the test matches, and then also with his family, like his wife. So I don't think it's IPL. It's more him. It's like with Pat Cummins. He's foregoing the IPL this next year because of the international schedule. So, oh yeah, I forgot. Australia is also planning to rotate the captaincy when it comes to Pat Cummins for the ODI'S, 50 overs to allow him to rest. So interesting times, I guess, for Australian cricket, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. If you were to ask me, I'd probably think he'd want to step down for T20s because, the 50-over World Cup is just about a year away, so he'd want to play that. And the T20 World Cup is in 2 years' time. So, your guess is as good as mine, but I think Australia would probably want to freshen up their squad there in terms of T20s. So they probably want to look at building with youth. But I think ODIs and Tests is probably where he's going to stand. In the kind of short term.
Oh, hello. Can you? Oh, okay. Okay. Any final words before we wrap up?
Yeah, what do you make of the Proteas side to go to Australia? Did you have a look at the team? There's a few new faces in that side.
Oh, I haven't actually. I haven't read. I haven't actually seen the squad. Do enlighten me.
I think it's on Cricket Info, but there's a few new faces in that squad.
Okay, just Crick. Oh yeah, you're right. Crick Info. All right, let's click that up. Oh, that's strange. Yeah, I'm trying to go into the website. Oh, yeah, okay, we go to SA Squad for Australia. Yeah, okay, yeah, just trying to see here. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. I'm looking at this cricket.co.za. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, looks like this. Oh yeah, here it is. It says Gerald Coetzee had made him call up to the South African Red Bull setup. Don't know if you know about him, Gerald Coetzee. Tienus de Bruin is there.
Tienus de Bruin gets a recall. I think the last we saw him was 3 or 4 years ago. I think the last.
It's Durban, I think. I remember he played Australia in Durban the last time I saw him.
Yes, and I was actually at that game, so I did see Tienus playing that game. So I'm actually I'm actually kind of happy that he's back in the squad. I think he deserves a spot. Given the domestic competition he's had so far, he's been quite impressive. But Gerald Coetzee, very very exciting prospect for me. I think he bowls in the high 140s, and I think if you want to win in Australia, you got to fight fire with fire. You've got to have bowlers that can crank it up a bit. And I think the reason why England failed so dismally in the Ashes last year is because they didn't have a bowler that could bowl, or 3 or 4 bowlers that could bowl 140 plus. I think the only guy that could have bowled 140 plus was Mark Wood, and Mark Wood didn't play all the games. So to win in Australia, you got to fight fire with fire. I think if I look at this team here, I think they probably a bit thin in the batting lineup. I think the bowling, they could definitely fare well with the bowling. I think the bowlers actually pick themselves, the likes of, Rabada, Nokia. You got Marco Janssen, who unfortunately couldn't get a game in the World Cup, and what a talent he is. And then, if you add Gerald into that lineup, I think that's quite a fearsome, decent bowling lineup in Test matches. Aiden Markram obviously dropped, and I think rightly so. I think I would have dropped him as well. I think he hasn't been up to scratch in Test matches for quite a long time at the moment. So Keegan Peterson, obviously number 3, he's injured, so that's why Tinas is in the side. I just like to ask you about a formation wise. I mean, if you got a kind of a brittle batting lineup that that the Proteas do have in Test matches at the moment, would you go with a 6-5 split in the batting lineup, or would you go with a 7-4? Because I think Marco Janssen, I mean, although he's obviously rated very highly as an all-rounder, I think him batting at number 7 is a bit too high. I think that's a bit too high for him until he becomes a genuine all-rounder that can obviously fill that number 7 spot. I think that's a bit too high for him. I would probably prefer to have a wicket-keeper at number 7, and then you just go in with your 3 quicks, and obviously you got Maharaj as a spinner. What do you think of a 6-5 or 7-4 split? Or what would you go for in the sense? Would you play 6 specialist batsmen and 5 bowlers and an all-rounder, or would you go with 7 specialist batsmen and play your 4 bowlers? What would you go for?
I'm trying to think of our formula. I think our formula used to be 7-4, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, when SA were a really good Test team, and they were 9 years away from home, they were unbeaten under Smith, and what a great captain Smith was, especially in the Test format. South Africa had a brilliant Test team at that time, and obviously you had the one thing that was obviously different with those sides is you had Jacques there, you had Cullis that could bowl a few overs, so he was the all rounder and he was the fourth seamer. So you kind of don't have that at the moment. What I'm saying is he was a fourth seamer, so you could probably play 7 batters because he would get in the team just with his batting as well. So you could play him as a fourth seamer. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he was a full package. We talk about a player with a full package. I mean, Cullis was head and shoulders above the rest. So when you got a critical batting lineup,
but I get it though, because I think South Africa will need the bowlers though, and Australia you need your good bowlers too. But you also need your batsmen too. I think Australia, if they're playing on those spicy pitches, even if they can make 300, I think they'll be in the game. They do have some confidence of winning in Australia, so I think that will work in their favor. And Dean Elgar is a tough cookie, so it should be a fascinating series.
It should be. I think the bowlers can hold their own. What really concerns me is the batting lineup. This batting lineup seems, of course, yeah. It hasn't played for a long time. I think I think most of the Test series that they probably won so far has obviously been attributed to the bowlers. I think Janssen is an unbelievable talent. I think him in the side has really strengthened this bowling lineup as well. So, I mean, he's such a big player, and I couldn't understand how he couldn't get a game in this World Cup. And it just boggles the mind. But anyways, that's over and done with at the moment. But I do feel there has to be a bit of protection there for him as well. I personally like to see him at number 8. I think he's a good number 8, and I'd like to go in with an extra batter. Just for safety reasons, and in Australia, 250 is not a winning score, in my opinion. It's not a winning score. You've got to.
Yeah.
You've got
Depends on the pitch. I think the pitch in Australia will probably suit us as well, because their pitches are quite similar to ours back home. Although I do think Australian pitches are a lot better than ours, so I think we'd be fine. I don't think it'll be as bad as what we making it out to be. I think we'll be fine. because their pitches are similar to our pitches. In England, they were just swinging all over the place, and I think, yeah, I think we'll be okay. We also have that mental edge, so I think we'll be fine on that department also.
But remember something, there's a lot of players that are not part of that squad that actually won last time around. I think there's just a few survivors. So
some good memories there. They'll
yeah,
take some advantage of those players.
no, I do understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. But you know, Bavuma, I'm happy Bavuma's back in the side. I think this is his format.
He's class in test
I
matches.
can't understand why. I mean, I just can't understand why he was ever thrown into T20s. I mean, that just again boggles my mind completely. You know, Bavuma's format.
It all comes down to the famous keyword.
Yeah, really
transformation.
And I do think when Elgar obviously steps down, I think he needs to be the test captain, the next test captain, because I think this is his format. I really think this is his format, and he needs he needs to be given the test captaincy. I feel, in my opinion, the T20s
you see, what's funny? I was telling you back then that Bavuma should have been test captain, and I think the one-day captain could have been maybe Elgar, but they say Elgar doesn't play one day, so I think that's where the conflict must have been with the selectors back then, because I think that's what must have happened. I would have preferred Bavuma being test captain, because at least that would have been one transformation thing ticked. But then I think Elgar's done a great job, so it's difficult.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such an unfortunate kind of episode that quotas and politicians and transformation gets in the middle of trying to build a good team, and that's really unfortunate. I mean, when it comes to test match, you can't really fault Bavuma, the cricketer. I think he's really, he's been one of our best batters, although that second test 100 is eluding him, and he does get it. But I mean, he's a fantastic player of fast bowling, and he'll have good memories of the last trip to Australia. He'll have good memories. I think Elgar will have some good memories. Rabada. But I mean, the rest of the side, I think they're a bit, this is going to be their first tour, and I just hope that it doesn't go too badly. But I just want to say something. I think, if they end up 2-0 down with the third test to go, one more test to go, I think it's only fair to give a guy like Gerald Coetzee a game just to try him out and see what he's made of. If that scenario obviously comes about, because I just feel the only thing that really worries me in the batting lineup, they haven't fired for a long time, and England was really, really difficult. That Duke's ball was swinging all over the show. It was difficult conditions, and I think a lot of those batsmen were in two minds whether to go back or play four. Their thinking was really kind of puzzled there. So I just hope that doesn't really happen. Clear mindset. And the Test Championship is obviously still up for grabs. So that's
I was just gonna say. But then, saying that, I think Australia will probably fancy themselves against this Proteas side. I think this is their best chance of winning a series against the Proteas at home. It's been a while. You have to admit that, Even though I'm saying we'll be fine, but I think Australia will be the favourites. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think like 2016 series. You got to have some big performances to get over the line there. So, but I do think. Given the last three trips, and those last three trips were really amazing, what those test teams did in Australia. I think it's probably one of the most inexperienced sides that are going to Australia. Probably one of the weaker teams that we are taking to Australia, given the size we've taken three trips. So, I mean, it's going to be difficult. It's really, really going to be difficult. Elgar again has to lead from the front with a bat. I think he's got to score a lot of these runs.
Yep.
If they're going to go, if they're going to get anywhere near trying to win the series.
I was just realizing now that you've brought this transformation issue, I think it's kind of hit us in the butt now. Remember 2015 semi-final where Philander played instead of Abbott, and then now Bavuma was just being a big-time passenger. So I think they need to be careful of this, man. It's happened twice. Otherwise, it's going to become a stumbling block. As it is, competing at a World Cup is stress enough. But now when you have this additional stress, it's not good. So hopefully it just comes to an end, man.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've never seen a Protea captain under the kind of stress and strain that I've seen Bavuma in for the last couple of months. It's been really, really stressful on him. I mean, it's been unbelievable how much stress this guy has been under, and I just feel that you need to release this off him. You need to take this monkey off him, and I think given his game, he's kind of a technical sort of player in that Pujara mold that he relishes the red ball game, and throwing him to this format was such a bad move, and I think it's an indictment on the selectors, that they kept on with him. It just goes to show the incompetence that the selectors have, and like you said, it's not always the selectors' fault that they're in the team, that he's in the team. There's obviously outside pressures as well that's causing this sort of selection to take place, and CSA has been in a total mess. It's been in a total mess ever since 2015. The last 6 years have been absolute shambles with this cricketing board. I think before that, under Gerald Majola was probably a little bit better. It was I think sustainable in the sense, but I think when Gerald Majola left Cricket South Africa, I think the wheels completely came off. The wheels completely came off. There have been so many directors of cricket that have come and gone. It's been absolute shambles. But anyways, it's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, man. But I guess we'll have plenty of time to discuss Australia, South Africa. That's only in the 17th of December. So I think the first one was at Brisbane, the second one is at G, and the third one is at Sydney. So, yeah, man, interesting pitches there. Interesting ground they're playing Australia in, but I'm sure we'll be, although the Brisbane is Australia's hunting ground, so I think I'll probably expect Australia to probably take that one, then SA will take the second one, then if they decide, then it's Sydney. So anyway, we'll discuss more on that when the time comes.
I just want to say something. I think Brisbane and Melbourne should definitely suit the Proteas, definitely, because those are hard pitches. If they want to get a result, I really think Melbourne is a sort of surface that would definitely suit the Proteas. So, yeah, hoping for a great series, eh?
Yeah, okay. I think that's pretty much a wrap. I shall check you on the other side.
Cheers. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.